gentlemen, welcome to the American Outlaws podcast. We are back here with another extremely special guest. We are joined by my co-founder. What are we going to call it? I don't know what we want to call it, Cody, but we're calling it AOTV for now. Cody Cooper is my sidekick, and we are also joined by Justin Brunken back at the home ship in Lincoln, Nebraska. And we are very blessed to welcome Jay DeMerit to the pod today. So, Jay, welcome. How are you, man?
Oh, it's always nice to see Stars and Stripes jerseys on the other side of these Zoom calls. You know, it just makes me feel right at home.
Love it. Well, we've always been huge fans of you as a player, and the more we've heard about your story over the years, I think we're as much of fans about the story itself. So we're excited to hear about some of that stuff. But first, we want to start with a little section that we like to call "Look at this photograph." Cody, hit it.
Look at this photograph. All right, here's our first one with maybe a little bit better musical artist. Starting off with a picture of you and the legendary Sir Elton John. Maybe you can explain your connection to Elton a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, Elton John, I'm very fortunate to call him a friend. I've known Elton John for 15 years now. He was formerly the owner of Watford Football Club. You know, that's generally where he was in a boyhood, in the terraces at Watford. He grew up just outside of London, where Watford Football Club is. One of those guys that really, in reading with his book as well, is where he really connected with his father. He didn't have a great relationship with his dad, but in the terraces at Watford is where he really connected. And so he always had a really special place in his heart for Watford, and became more and more involved with the club over the years. And now is considered the club's life president. So what that means is, you know, he's an ambassador for the club. He's up at 5 a.m. all around the world, like watching Watford games. He's he emails, he calls, he's an incredible man. And he really does. When he cares about something, he cares fully. And thankfully, when you're captain of a Watford football club team, like I was for 3 years, played over 200 games for them. He's a guy that, he really appreciates something that I brought to the table, which is quite rare when you think about the legend of legends. But and again, I'm also one of those guys that likes to do things like, hey, put my arm around him and give him a little noogie or see what he's up to. Or, you know what I mean? I'm one of those guys that really tries to engage in what he's doing. And my favorite Watford Elton story is the first day I met him. My first year, I was a rookie. Again, I'd walked to England. No one knew who the hell I was. So he comes in the locker room first time he's at a Watford game, and he's like, where's the American? And he comes in, and I'm sitting there in my underwear and like saying, well, what? Did Elton John just say something about me? And I look over at him, and he comes over to me, and he sits down next to me, and he says, he's like, so I hear you're from Green Bay, Wisconsin. He says, what do you think about Brett Favre retiring? And immediately my first conversation as a kid from frickin' Green Bay, Wisconsin is about Brett Favre, the Green Bay Packers, with Elton wearing nothing but underwear. So that was kind of my break into the Watford locker room. And then the best part goes is that as he started to, talk to me more about, football and life, he said, have you ever felt one of these before? And he takes a big ring off his hand, he throws it up, and I catch it, and it's a New England Patriots Super Bowl ring. And he says, I'm good friends with the Crafts, so they gifted that to me on their last Super Bowl win. And there I am, so again, holding a Super Bowl Patriots ring in my underwear, talking about Brett Favre and the Green Bay Packers, the biggest legend on the planet. I'm like, this is one hell of a rookie year.
I went back and I watched Rise and Shine again before this, and I think one of my favorite parts is they throw up an email you maybe sent to a friend or something like that in the movie that kind of just documents what the past few weeks had happened, and you're about to sign your Watford contract. And I think it's so cool that the story is like escalating, like, okay, I did the trial game and then now I'm starting and now they're giving me a contract. And then if that's not surreal enough that you throw in there, like, and it's owned by Elton John. I just thought, like, people always say you can't write something like that, but that if somebody told me that, I'd be like, okay, this is made up. Because that's just that's like a Forrest Gump step too far almost.
100%. And you got to kind of, like, when you're in those environments too, it is easy to not engage and be like, yes, Elton, yes, because you are like, holy shit, like, I can't believe I'm here. But it's pretty interesting though, because he's such an engaging guy too. And and if he likes you, especially, like, he loves it, he loves the club so much. Like, I've never seen anyone, like, we all have our celebrity fans, but this guy is like literally in the chairman's ear if we're, trades or whatever, you know what I mean? Like trying to find new players. Like he's into it the way that literally an owner needs to be. And, again, every time I see him, this picture was in 2 times ago when he was in Vancouver. And again, it always seems to surprise me. I don't know why, but he comes in and I get to see him before his show. He always sees me last before he can go on stage, so we can have as much time as he wants. And we talk football. We talk the new squad. We talk about, former players like Ashley Young playing for Manchester United and what's that like. And, he always tells me good stories and stuff like that. And the best part, though, and this is the craziest part, the last 2 times he's introduced his band on stage, like the legends, the 40-year-old guys, the guitarists, and 2 times in a row now he's ended with, and it's always great to see Jay DeMerit, my favorite Watford player.
And everyone is just like, who?
Like for real, like shout out on stage twice in front of 20,000 people at these arenas, and people are like, who the hell is Jay DeMerit?
they start Google searching it right then and there. It's amazing.
Yeah, and this is like Vancouver, you know what I mean? I'm just kidding, oh yeah, it's pretty amazing. But again, I make these little stereos and stuff from my design background, and he's bought like 5 rocket logs from me. Like really loves all the design stuff. I really do consider him a friend. It's not one of those things. It's like we actually like email each other. It's like he emails me back. It's like it's crazy. You know what I mean? Like, but you never know. You never know in those types of situations. They're just you make the most of them if you are so fortunate enough to have them. And I'm certainly one of those people.
And that has to say something about your play, though, there. I mean, the fact that he liked you that much. I mean, you could be a player at Watford and be like, oh, why is he on the team?
Oh, no. And believe me, he would say it.
I know, right? So that's awesome. That has to mean so much to you.
Yeah, and like even when he was in Vancouver, I took his boys. We went to this park and we trained, and I took his kids and we trained at the park and had an awesome day, and you know what I mean. Like we do friend stuff, and it's such a special thing, for me, and I really really appreciate that relationship.
That's awesome. Like I said, just another great element to your story. I think we're gonna move on to our next photo here with I think a different type of English legend. Got you with Wayne Rooney at the World Cup. Doesn't have to be about this tackle in particular, but I really like that photo. But maybe you could just talk a little about your experience there and playing against the likes of these guys on the international stage.
We lost him.
Can I just say that picture is in?
Yeah.
What was that? Sorry, I can't.
We lost it.
Video picked up.
Your screenshot that was like it was stuck on was quite hilarious, at least.
Oh, okay. Can you guys hear me now?
Yep. You're good.
Okay. So no, but the crazy thing about that game is that I don't know. A lot of people don't know too much about the story about my corneal replacement. So I had a full transplant surgery 6 months before the World Cup to replace my cornea in my right eye, and so I played the rest of the season with a stitch in my eye. Finished the season with Watford, had a full replacement, ready to go. Surgeon says, "I'll take the stitch out. You should be good to go by the World Cup." Turns out we play Turkey, and I'm starting to kind of feel a little bit weird in my eye. And then by the time we got to South Africa, we had one warm-up game against Australia, and I was missing goal kick headers by feet, and it was almost embarrassing. And I was like, what is going on? So we go to the eye doctor the next morning. We're 6 days away from the England game, and the doctor says, yeah, you're at a -6 prescription in your right eye. So that's back to legally blind in my right eye. And there I was 6 days before this game, knowing that this is the guy that I got to mark. And I'm back to legally blind in my right eye. They can't make contacts that high of a prescription in South Africa, so I can't get them. And so I'm freaking out. We're trying not to tell Bob because we're trying to find out ways that we can find them so I can see again, because my cornea collapsed, and I couldn't. And basically I'd gone from being able to see with the stitch and having a cornea that was shaped a certain way to now collapsing. So I was back to legally blind, and so I'm supposed to play against the best player in the world. So I'm freaking out. I don't know so I call my agent, who was in London, and he was coming the day of the England game. So he says, so I call my surgeon, who, again, I was playing for Watford, so I was living in London. That's where my surgery was. And he's like, yeah, we have those here, and we can send you a couple pairs. So my agent got them and landed the morning of the England game, and we had a motorcycle courier pick up the contacts and drive them to me to the hotel in Bloemfontein. And at 3 p.m. on the day of that game, after being completely blind in my right eye for 6 days, I played that game, and literally was the best game I have ever played in my whole entire life.
Well, when you can see, that helps.
Well, I was like,
blind,
I got this now. I'm here now. I can see. Might as well go and do my best. And, that was, I've always kind of relished those opportunities of like the big name players, like I was never supposed to be there in the first place. So my mindset was always like, I'm here now, I get to be the one to go out and kick this guy. Like, I can't wait to test him. I'm going to test him every second of the day. I'm going to make sure that he is the player they say he is, because I'm not supposed to be here. So I got no fear. I got no fear to go in and test that guy and test what he's all about and see if he's as good as they say he is. And so that was always my attitude when I'd go out and play against the big teams and against the big players like that.
Yeah, and
so we're clear. Hey, shut up, Brunken. Just so we're clear, did Bob Bradley never have any idea that this was the case?
No, he knew. I mean, he was very well aware of the eye issue over the past 6 months. Like, he took me. I don't know if you guys remember the game we played against Holland in Holland. It was kind of the last friendly we had before they named the squad.
Yeah,
and that was kind of my yes, exactly. And so that was my kind of come back and show Bob that I was ready to play again game. And so he was very well aware of it, but we definitely dumbed down the situation to see how serious it was that I literally couldn't play because they didn't have prescriptions strong enough to have a contact that big in Africa. So we were going to have to find some other measures. But thankfully, again, it was just 6 days before the World Cup. You're fit, you're ready. It's a lot of that last couple of days was prep. So it wasn't as serious as it probably sounds, but it definitely was in my brain. I was like, what? Like, what if I, just from the pressure of the situation alone, let alone now I got to figure out how I'm going to see.
And I'll just say forever, because I think it's technically true now, that we played England with a legally blind center back.
Yeah.
And all they could do is draw us.
Rooney can't even beat a blind person. That's what I took from this.
All right.
You can almost not even see that ball right there. Look at that photo.
All right. That concludes our segment this week for Look at This Photograph. So thanks for playing along with that one, Jay.
So Jay, I want to start. I'm going to back up. Actually, you've talked about it on a few podcasts as well as on the Rise and Shine documentary. You weren't necessarily just a soccer player going into late high school. In fact, I think you said that you were playing basketball and not football, but you're playing other sports at the time, and you hadn't made a decision on what you wanted to do. So how did you land on soccer? I think you were about 15 or 16 when you decided that you were going to give it a go.
I think, again, athleticism was kind of my core trait, especially as a youngster. I played soccer, basketball, track until I was 18 years old. I had decent scholarship opportunities in soccer, but only one Division I scholarship. And then in basketball, I had one Division III scholarship. So I was at a little bit of a crossroads, but with schooling being important to me, because I wasn't, again, a high academy product or anything, I didn't have this bright future in professional sports. It was kind of this whole idea of like, okay, let's weigh up the whole idea of school, sports, etc. And I was always kind of this guy that likes to throw myself in the mix of things that are bigger than me. So that's why Chicago was enticing, allowed me to go to design school, which is what I wanted to do for school, but then allowed me to really kind of test the market in Chicago, which I knew where all the good players were. And then that kind of put me into the first arena where I could really see if I was good enough or not. So
you decide that you're going to play soccer. You decide I'm going to go to UIC, and you get, I'm skipping a little bit here, but you finish school. You're not picked up by an MLS team. You have a buddy that you played ball with that was from England, and he comes up to you and basically proposes this idea to you. Hey, let's move back to England. We can live with my parents. We can sleep on the floor, and let's go try to find a trial, something. I guess, how did you convince yourself that was the next step in your life? I mean,
I knew that was coming. Oh wow! Well, a couple ways. One, as a college graduate, I know what that means. It's like, hey, you just got your degree. What are you gonna do? I'm gonna wrap a mattress up, put it through a hole in the ceiling, and sleep on that floor. Play 12th division soccer for $40. Yeah, so I totally understand. How that could sound crazy, but for me, it didn't seem crazy. Because again, I knew I'd have to start at the bottom of the ladder somewhere. When you don't get drafted in the MLS, which again, the net wasn't even close to as deep as it is now, but I didn't get picked. I had a couple walk-ons to PDL teams, and to continue, I was playing PDL at the time. But again, anybody from PDL, especially at that time, that walked onto an MLS club was sewn up for 4 years at $20,000 a year. So I'm like, okay, college graduate, design degree, internship at design firm A is $40,000 out of college, cool kid design stuff, all this, or 4 years at $20,000 and go, hey, good luck down in Charlotte. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It didn't seem like it was something I really wanted to do on that level. I knew I was potentially capable of doing it, but if I'm going to start at the bottom of the barrel somewhere, now enter the opportunity to go live in England, have a roof under my head for free. Again, I don't care. I live in a cardboard box. I don't care. Like, I'm not like that at all. I'd choose adventure over sensibility sometimes, So that's kind of where, my mindset was. I graduated from college. Again, I put 4.5 years of work being a student athlete and wanted to travel and go see Europe, and had an opportunity to do so. And then again, a roof over my head to start in the 12th division. So I looked at the 12th division, yes, of course, being worse than second division US, but still, like, not that different. So it's like, I got to start somewhere. And if that light at the end of the tunnel is so much brighter in England, the biggest jungle in the world, why not? Let's go in that circle and see what happens. And I went to a game right when I landed. We went to this, I think it was QPR Tranmere, which would have been in the third division at the time. And it was just like Loftus Road, QPR, right downtown London, right on the pitch. And it's like, just crazy. And that game on, I was just looking around going, this is what real football is. And I got to be a part of this, because this is so what I want to do. Because again, so that kind of really started the mindset and the work ethic that was required to start, fighting for the right to be an American renegade in London.
Yeah. So if you guys haven't seen the documentary, it's Rise and Shine. It's on Netflix. Take the time to get on there and watch this, because it's
not on Netflix.
Yeah,
that's the point
we
of
were trying.
contention, Chris. It should be everywhere.
It was on Netflix, iTunes, but those deals are now done.
Okay.
We finally got the rights back, so we actually just put it back on YouTube. It's for free. Type in Rise and Shine full movie, it'll come up. We want to, again, this is a story that was paid for by, thousands of donors on Kickstarter in 2011 to turn my story into a documentary film. And, this story isn't something people should pay for. It's something that everyone should watch, because it's literally about life and the things that you can do if you take it upon yourself to create your own story.
Yeah. Yeah. It was partially paid for by a lot of AO members too out there. I remember, people were loving it, and people were participating, putting on like, viewing parties in all these different cities. And it was really cool how even our community came together for your story. And man, I don't know what that would have felt from you to have that, but man, it was cool to see.
Well, as you can see, there's still flags behind me. Now, again, what that happened to me. And again, I'll remember for the rest of my life. It was one of the most special things in the world. Is I was sitting on a park bench in Vancouver, and the campaign was $215,000 on Kickstarter when no one was donating money in 2011. No one knew how to even give money online. And it was just like celebrities were coming up videos and things because they had just watched the story on the World Cup. And I think we all as humans appreciate human stories. And I remember, we had to raise $200,000 for FIFA footage and Premier League footage just to show 2 minutes of footage on a freaking documentary.
Oh, I know. I remember that.
How much it costs to produce that in a documentary film where people can watch. You got to pay $50,000 a minute for FIFA footage, $50,000 a minute. So it's like, they had to pay for this footage. So it was like, you had to do it. But then to have everyone come together, it just again personified what it was all about. The whole Rise and Shine is that, things are much bigger than me. It's the idea that these things can happen. And I became the vehicle of Rise and Shine. So that was my empower moment, sitting on that bench going, oh shit, now I got work to do, because now Rise and Shine is my story. And now I got to use this to create other ones for other people, because that's the point. You know what I mean? For me, I use Rise and Shine. Again, we're a charity, a music festival, a youth program. We do all this stuff now based on that whole idea. And truly, I live Rise and Shine now.
And I think, sorry, Justin. I think that's.
Tell me to shut up.
Yeah, just stop. Put you on mute. I think the craziest thing about this, Jay, the thing that just sticks in my mind is the point at which you guys were physically riding bicycles around London trying to get a training session or some kind of trial. And and then to see, years later that you're playing at a World Cup and you guys got out of the group, it's fascinating because it's not just a story about soccer. It's not a story just about sport. It's a story about motivation and perseverance and having a dream and following it. And that's as cheesy as that is, it really is crazy.
Well, and you got bikes were too expensive, or cars were too expensive.
For sure.
Well, because again, we all have to understand our situations. But again, I never lost this sense of, I guess, adventure of it all. You know what I mean? Like I think we always need to remind ourselves not to take our stories so seriously, and to really enjoy the whole journey side of it. I mean, again, everyone says that it's all about the journey. But in all honesty, like the things we can do with our lives just by saying yes is great. Again, I have an opportunity to go to England and live in an attic and play 12th division. I'm got to do it the hard way. Am I not going to say yes? Of course I am. I get to go hang out in London, rent some bikes in Amsterdam, go smoke a joint, hang out with you know what I mean? Like whatever, man. Like you know what I mean? Like these are the types of things that I'm like, why wouldn't I take advantage of that? Because that's life, that's experience. These are things that we also have to take in consideration in creating our own stories. And yes, I came with the purpose. I think that's also to note too. I didn't come here on vacation. I came here with a purpose. But, and again, if we don't take it seriously and we don't think that we're going to show up on English shores and go knock on Chelsea's door and be like, yo, I'm this American Division I athlete. Can you give me a tryout? Like, who's going to do that? There's no way I'm doing that. I'm sitting down there in the trenches and kick mud at people for a while and see if I got a shot. You know what I mean? That's what I'm going to start with. But then I got my shot and I started doing that. And then all of a sudden, the cool thing about England, and this was my consciousness in going there, was like, it's the size of one U.S. state and there's 96 professional teams. The concentration of ability of the net to be a part of something, if I am good, which again, I only had 3.5 years of soccer experience at that point. I had 3.5 years of college soccer experience. That's it. I played soccer at a full-time level until when I was 19 years old. That was it. First time. So it's like, scouts aren't looking at me. The ODP programs aren't saying, hey, we should draft him at, their third spot. They're like, I'm not even on their radar. Yeah. You know what I mean? But I know this. And I'm not comparing myself to anyone that would go over there on a radar. I'm like, hey, non-radar guy, this is your path. You got to go and sleep on floors and play in front of 3 people and a dog and travel around in a van and all over England and try to get $60 in an envelope. That's what and again, I knew that was right. I have to start. So, and again, once I started it, that's when you start to meet other people and you start to play against guys that just got released from QPR in the 3rd division the year before. And you're like wiping the floor with these guys and going, oh shit, like maybe I am good enough. Maybe. And then all of a sudden, again, it's the concentration. They go, oh, wow, where'd you come from? Who's this guy? Scout goes, hey, I know a guy at Oxford 3rd division. Do you want to try out there? And then all of a sudden it starts to snowball. And that's what happened.
Yep. Dude, yeah. Your attitude and passion and positivity is like contagious. Like I can imagine like you going there and like everyone's like, I don't know what he's selling or what he's doing, but I'm in, man. That's how I feel right now.
Oh yeah. That's the DeMerit secret sauce right there. But for me, it's just, but again, it's like this like, we call it the tight loose line where like, it's like this, you're there with purpose and you're there with thought and consciousness, but like, I am ready for anything. I'm as loose as they come when it comes to like being ready and, up for anything and just saying yes to situations to get the most out of them. And I think when you get to that level or ride that tight loose line in the White Ray, great opportunities present themselves.
You're talking about that experience with your buddy. Was it Kieran? Is that his name?
Kieran. Yep.
Am I getting that right? Yeah. I think as I have read about it and watched your movie and all those sorts of things, the kind of thing that popped into my mind was when you hear a lot of like musical artists or actors or celebrities talking about how once they made it, they almost kind of missed the days when they were the starving artist or struggling or on the up. Once you kind of made it, when you were like in Old Trafford or at the World Cup or something like that, was there a part of you that was like, man, now that I've got here, I miss like the chase? Or were you just like, thank the Lord every single day that I'm doing this?
Yeah, the latter. I always, again, when you come from the places that I had come from, it's almost impossible not to appreciate that. You kind of wear the dirt, if you know what I mean. Because when not many people have to go through that to get to professionalism, because they're already part of that program at 12, 13, 14. So again, this is part of the reason, like through my youth programs now, I'm trying to change that. Like, because that's why kids right now in our current high performance programs don't have grit. They don't have dirt because they've never actually been told that A, it's part of the code, or B, it's fine. I'll just wash your jersey and your dirt won't be there the next day. You know what I mean? Like that in itself is a metaphor, creates a mindset that I really, I had to earn. And when you earn that mindset and you start getting those things like World Cups or starting for Watford and walking out of the tunnel against Manchester United, like there's no way in hell you would take that position for granted, because you're like, I know what it took to get here. I know what it's like to be on the other side. So why would I ever be scared of that opportunity? And I call that like when I do a lot of speaking engagements and stuff now and talk to kids, I call it like the tunnel mentality. And the tunnel mentality is like when you're standing in a big situation, whether you're about to walk into your job, or whether you're, about to go walk into a trial with a team or go play in front of 50,000 people. It's like you have this ability to look to the tunnel, like to the right of me, and go, holy shit, this is Manchester United. What if I mess up in front of 75,000 people? Oh my God, Ronaldo is like 6'1", 190 pounds of pure, beautiful muscle. And it's like, oh my God, this dude's going to crush me today. Like these are easy ways that you can go and psych yourself out. So when that tunnel, walk out and the lights are on, you're like, oh shit, I'm going to fuck up here. Oh my God. And then you play nervous, and then that breeds that whole idea of kind of, I'm not ready for this, or oh my God, this situation is going to make the most of this, or most of me. But for me, I was sitting in that tunnel and I looked across and I was like, wow, he is really good looking. I'd probably date that guy. I was always like making fun of the situation, that like, I can't believe I'm here, but now that I'm here, you damn right, I'm going to go and test that guy and make sure that he, isn't the privileged, good looking dude that his reputation, is saying. I'm going to test it. It's like the Jordan theory, which we've all been watching. It's like, you can test that guy all day long, but he'll beat you every time for the most part. But at first you got it. Like, I think that BJ Armstrong talks about, or when Steve Kerr finally stood up to him and was like, I'm going to stand in front of that guy's face and say, I got what you got. Let's go and see what you got. And that was kind of my whole entire, when I was in that tunnel, it was always like, understand that how far you got. So get energy because of that. Don't psych yourself out, psych yourself up. And that was always like, I get to be the one that has the opportunity to go play against the world's best players. This is a great opportunity for me to test. This is a good opportunity for me to get better. And this is a good opportunity for me to take advantage of this incredible situation I'm so fortunate to be a part of. So, again, that created energy for me. It never turned into this daunting task of fear. It wasn't, because I'd gone through those daunting tasks of fear by some of the steps I had to take along the way.
So I'm gonna skip quite a bit here, but so you're playing in the 12th division in England. You're playing Sunday League, drinking beers with guys, waiting for your chance. And eventually your chance comes. You get signed by Watford, and I think Andy Bothroyd was your manager at that time. And within 2 years, you guys get into the playoff final to get promoted to the Premier League. And if you guys haven't seen the footage, you need to watch it. But you score the goal, one of the goals that gets you guys to promotion, in a game that is by dollar bigger than the Super Bowl, if I'm doing my math correctly. Tell us about, I think your family came over. Tell us about the experience going into that game, and how were your nerves? How did you keep it all together?
Again, you're right. The championship, English championship playoff final is the most lucrative professional sports game in all of sports. So I think now it's almost up to $100+ million that goes to the winner because of the TV windfall when the championship teams come into the Premier League, because the Premier League is the most watched league in the world. The TV money is incredible. So not only does it help with stadium improvements, but it also helps kind of bring a kitty in, so you can start to buy players to even try to stay in the league. And everyone knows, if you're a soccer fan, how important and how incredible the Premier League is as far as the talent pool and how hard it is to stay in that league. And so, again, fast forward, or actually rewind, second season, I'm fortunate enough to play some games in my rookie year. I get the starting role by my second. We're tipped to go into the third division. Pundits are predicting us to go down again. So we're in the first division championship. So we are predicted to go to the third division. We hire the 34-year-old youngest manager in all of professional leagues, A.D. Boothroyd, as the youth director of Leeds United. Zero professional coaching experience, and he's about 5'8", 140 pounds.
There's nothing wrong with that size, by the way.
Well, we'll put it this way: when you walk in front of 30 grown professionals and 6 of the guys in the room are older than you, and this is your first professional coaching experience, and the first question that you say when we're all in the meeting room is, with what's going on in this room, by the end of the season, we're going to be promoted to the Premier League. And we all looked at this dude like, what is this cowboy talking about? Like, again, I didn't know shit. I didn't know. I was in my second year. Like, I had no idea what was going on. I just like, hey, this dude seems kind of crazy. That guy's kind of like me. And that's kind of was my first assessment. But when you get this guy that says that in front of you, and then like you get to look at the older pros looking at each other like, who is this guy? But then like he had this incredible energy and he had this incredible belief. And then he started really on the man management side. And every day he would take a guy and he'd put his arm around him and walk him around the training ground after the training. And it was just this communication where he just started to get more out of us and ask us questions and really challenge us. And then he did this thing called the circle mentality, which was every Sunday after the Saturday games, there'd be 30 chairs in the circle. And if you had anything to do with the game day operations, we would sit in that circle and we would spend an hour discussing what happened. Good, bad, ugly, goals. This worked well. This person got injured. Why? And by the end of that season, we were in playoff positions and we all believed in each other in such a deeper way. And we were basically, by the time playoffs came, unstoppable. And we made it into the playoff spots. We played Crystal Palace home and away. We beat them 4-0 on aggregate in the first round of the playoffs to set up the playoff final, which is always at a neutral location. Now it's back at Wembley, but at this point it was in the Cardiff Stadium in the Millennium Stadium in Cardiff, sorry. And, 75,000 seat stadium, Cardiff, Wales, massive, again, in England, you can't sit next to each other. So half of the stadium is in white, half of the stadium is in Watford yellow. It's kind of like, looks like a Super Bowl atmosphere, fireworks, all that other stuff. And, again, the same idea, by the end of that season, he had empowered me enough as an individual to feel like I was better than I was. Just like the rest of us. And, walked out of that stadium and we smashed Leeds 3-0 in front of 75,000. I scored the first goal kick. We had some guns like Ben Foster in the goal. He was on loan from Manchester United. Ashley Young was our young winger that grew up in Watford. We had other guys like Chris Eagles and a couple other guys that were on loan from Premier League teams. So we had kind of a mixed squad, but then we had like Malky Mackay, 38-year-old, like Scottish pro, like, we had a leadership group that was really incredible. And for me as a new guy, it was just such a great experience to really make me understand what high performance football was about. And again, I was fortunate enough to again put myself in a situation where I could score. I got the man of the match ball, so I got to talk in front of 75 and on a jumbotron. And there I am, a Premier League player, and no one in America has ever even heard of me. So that was kind of the first thing I needed to get over. Is like I'm sitting at a bar in 2006 with a Premier League medal on my chest, talking to my friends in Chicago, watching the World Cup with all the players I'm going to be playing
That's
against
right.
in a month. In a month, I'm going to be playing against all these dudes, and I'm in a bar in Chicago getting hammered with my friends. So it was an interesting time. Let me say that.
That's amazing.
I'm interested to know when you. Just because the Premier League wasn't, I don't think, as widely available in the U.S. as it is now, where you can watch every game whenever. Did you have a really firm grasp on kind of how the whole league worked and the ins and outs of it? Or were you learning a lot once you got there and a lot of teammates were kind of telling you about different things to expect, different atmospheres, things like that?
A little bit of both. I think, again, in England, you kind of live through the culture there. So, you not only as a footballer for a couple years, but also just, again, there's 32-page pullouts every Saturday about all 96 teams and the games that are on and the player profiles. And so you really do learn quite quickly about the culture of the sport and what it means and what the atmospheres are like. And I had a good buddy that I played with at Watford that was from Newcastle. So anytime Newcastle would play in London, he would bring me to the games, and like I could kind of feel what that was feeling like. And Again, by no means was it like it is in reality. You know what I mean? Playing in the Premier League as a player is incredible. Like the feeling of it, the media exposure, the stadiums, and ultimately the best players in the world. You play every week. You know, that's not like that in the Championship. You get an international every 3 or 4 games, but you know, in the Premier League, you're playing against the best players in the world every week and every team. So in a way, that was exciting. I had so much energy for that Premier League season, but it was definitely mentally the hardest because you can't switch off. In that league, you cannot switch off because it doesn't matter if it's the 80th minute or the 88th minute. If you give Drogba one chance, 9 times out of 10, he's putting it where he needs to put it. And that's the difference between the Premier League and the Championship.
So you guys get promoted. No, Brunken.
I wasn't saying anything. I was just doing, oh my God. Cause that's just thinking about that.
Crazy.
Is absolutely insane. You're right.
So you guys get promoted, and soon after that, I think in 2007 is you got your first call up. You play the Gold Cup, and then right after that, a couple years later, you guys go to the Confederation Cup. And we had Jimmy Conrad and Benny Faulhaber on the last 2 podcasts, and they've talked about you guys' run in the Confederation Cup. What was, when you think back about that run in South Africa, you know, beating Spain, nearly beating Brazil in the final, what are some of the things you remember about that tournament?
I mean, the first thing I recognize is just that was like my first opportunity to feel like I was a starter for the national team. You know, I looked at that as, again, kind of the same idea. Thankfully, I'd been in the position before, kind of thrust into this opportunity. And, you know, for the story, as the story goes, I'd played in a Gold Cup and I'd had a couple appearances. I'd been on the bench for 2 years for the U.S. team. Again, I didn't get my first cap for a U.S. national team until I was 27 years old. So, you know, I was already late to the party. But the good thing is that I was coming from a league where I was already at the level. So once I got my opportunity to play for the U.S., I was ready for it. I was ready to walk in there because those stadiums weren't any different and the players weren't any different. So I think that allowed me to kind of hit the ground running when I got that opportunity against those teams in the Spanish or the Confederations Cup. And, you know, famously, it was already Brazil, Italy, Egypt. You know, these are teams that if you can show that you're worth it in those environments, you know, those are quick ways to hurdle it. And that's what I will always appreciate. And I'll say this too about that time of my life was that I'll always appreciate Bob Bradley's ability to say yes to me when he didn't have to. You know, Bocanegra in the last game of the Gold Cup got injured. You know, he wasn't supposed to play in that game. I get this opportunity to play against Brazil and Italy. He comes back for Egypt. And Bob calls me in his office. He's like, I'm not putting Boca back in. I like your relationship with Gooch. I like, you know, your dynamic. I like the fact that you're, you know, a little bit more gritty out there. You're doing things that normally people don't want to do. I like what that brings to this team. And he stuck with me. And for me, that was the first time where I realized that, you know, maybe I belonged there, you know, and for me, I guess that, you know, again, it took 2 years of me sitting on the bench to do that, but it also takes opportunities like that, where those pieces actually meet, where you're in an environment where you actually feel like you are in a whole sit. You know, you can go play against Guatemala in a Gold Cup. You'd be like, yeah, I'm a national team player, but you're not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you are, but you're not. You're not playing against Spain in the Confederations Cup. So, you know, again, for me to get those games under my belt and also to come off that field with wins, with guys like saying, great job, Jay, you know, I know you deserve to be there. Like that's the kind of the reinforcement you need to, it's kind of the reinforcement you need to feel validated. And for me, that Confederations Cup was validation for me to know that I belong there, but also, again, reignite my fire to be like, all right, now I got a year to prepare for a World Cup because that was way too awesome to give up.
Speaking of validation, my extensive research Wikipedia page says that there's a Barcelona newspaper that called your performance against Spain superb when they don't even care about Americans in U.S. soccer at all. I mean, that has to be validation a little bit. And it's funny that's the only thing mentioned about the game is that fact.
Yeah. Jay, did you add that?
They must have known that I was friends with Elton John or something.
So you guys,
yeah, well, you know, again, I think you just think about those types of things, and again, I've always loved being in those big light situations because those are great arenas for you to show who you are, and when everyone's watching, and when you create a mindset where you're prepared for those moments because you've done the work, and you create a mindset that those are the moments that you live for, you know, again, those are the things that can happen. And again, same with a playoff final, or same with a tryout for Watford, and you have one game to show a coach that you belong on the field. Like there are certain moments within my career where I was so ready for that moment that it wasn't going to not happen, if you know what I mean. And you know, I look at that Confederations Cup run as a way for me to show those types of things.
Yeah. Well, I think most of us remember that time as US fans as some of the best moments that we have as fans. And that was time that we were playing, you know, we were really competing on the world stage with the top teams. And I think, you know, my internet went out at halftime of that game, so I remember winning the Confederation Cup. But so after that, you go on, and then you go to South Africa for the actual World Cup, and you guys put in another amazing performance and really inspire people back home. You know, that was some of the earlier days of AO watch parties and some of the bigger events that we ever had, you know, kind of at the beginning. So what do you remember being down there during the World Cup and kind of the traction you guys gained coming back home?
You know, I think what I love most about that team is that we just really loved playing with each other. And I think that camaraderie showed in our performances. It showed in our ability. And it also, what I really love about that time too, is that it showed Bob Bradley's ability to pick a good squad. And you know, you got guys like Ricardo Clark or, you know, Torres that are coming in and playing a role in one game that's necessary because Bob's, you know, ability to understand tactics and to really do his research to preempt to who of the 11 are, or how guys can complement each other, even if on paper the media makes it not look like it's sensible. You know, Bob was he was good at that. And that was, I think, one of his greatest skills, is that his pool of players that he brought together really loved playing with each other. We fought for each other. I think we all brought different things to the table. And I think, again, those types of performances through those years really reflected in our performances. And, you know, we deserved to be on the field with those teams. Those performances were deserved. There was no one that would look at that Spain game and say that we didn't deserve to win. You couldn't. You couldn't do it tactically. You know, again, it wasn't probably pretty, but it was tactically, you know, well done. The talent pool, you know, work to strength was when it needed to be. Tim's stopping was when it needed to be. The talent was still there too. You know, these weren't flukes. These were guys that were good at the sport as well. And I think Bob's ability to put us all together in a room and fight for each other was I think, what I remember most about that time.
And I had a question on that. Something that you've mentioned it a couple times here, and obviously it comes up basically any story you read about Jay DeMerit is the word grit. And I think a lot of those guys too that you've mentioned had grit, and you've talked about that. And recently there was a quote that I had written down because you said that not a lot of U.S. players have that quality right now. I think you had particularly pointed out Pulisic as somebody who does have grit because of kind of the youth ranks that he came up in Germany. But I'll read the quote here. So you said, I want to know where the Jay DeMerits of now are. I want to know where the Brian McBrides are. I want to know where the gritty guys are. The Rockies of the world, where are those people? And I just found that really interesting. And I was wondering if you could expand upon that a little bit, because I think a lot of people would agree with that. I was just wondering how, as a player, do you go out and just seek adversity? You know, obviously not everybody's going to do the incredible stuff that you did, but what are some ways that you think players could put themselves through the ringer a little bit to develop those kind of qualities that team had?
I guess my opinion on it is that we are not, if we look at these things as a product, you know, if you look at a U.S. soccer system as a production wheel, and there's this conveyor belt that comes out of it, and it says, what do these players look like, and what do they feel like, and what do they like when they come off this conveyor belt? Right now, they're all pretty similar. Right now, they're all good technical players that have great stories. They're great athletes. They have superficial American fight. You know, I would call it superficial with the greatest respect of like, you know, again, our programs are no doubt creating capable people, but grit is something that you can only learn by experience. And grit is something is again, the job, and the answer to the question is to create more experiences where grit is required. You know, high performance programs for me right now, aren't creating enough grit because we're either not creating enough circumstances where guys figure out how to lose, how to go against people that are better than them, how to have mentorship where we start to teach humility through experience. These are all ways that, you know, we can learn in a way where we don't actually have to do it ourselves. We can put more people in, you know, again, in England, they do it in a loan program. You got guys that are Manchester United U20s that are playing in the championship, getting elbows from guys like Melky Mackay and Scottish guys that just want to kick these privileged little guys. That's part of it. Where's the loan? Where's these ability to go play above people that don't give a shit about you? Where's that? Where's the ability to go and sit in an environment that you feel uncomfortable? If you're a U.S. national team player, you're going to walk in every room with confidence because you're cool and you play for the U.S. national team. You don't know what it's like to sit on a table with a bunch of 17-year-old kids in England when you're the only one there from that country and you're last in line at the meal table. Your meals are prepared for you. You get your jersey signed, you folded for you every morning. There's no way that you're creating grit in the opportunity to create it in a way that life can create that for you too. Because grit isn't just a soccer program, it's a life program. It's a how do I put myself in an uncomfortable zone, come out of the end of that because I've had to work hard, take on adversities, maybe not believe what I believe in anymore, or have somebody say that I don't believe in you. There's a million reasons why we create grit and how these things, you come out of this product by being a better, more capable, and therefore have a better ability to fight for something. If you've done stuff, if you've experienced adversity, if you know what it's like to get punched in the face and stand up again and hit the guy back. If you know what that's like, now you can do it when it matters. But if you don't even know how to do it and you've never done it, how the hell are you going to do it in front of 60,000 people?
Can I reiterate that?
I just want to run through a brick wall right now.
Real quick. Grit is not a soccer program. Grit is a life program. I cannot agree more. That is such a good statement. Like, grit is a life program. And I think people forget about that. I do want to run through a brick wall right now.
You coined that.
Can we get Ernie Stewart on the line and have him create like a grit coach that is lifetime appointment, Jay DeMerit, and he just pounds the shit mentally out of our players for ever.
Believe me, guys, like I'm already thinking about ways to do it. And one of the things, like, again, we're already talking potentially to U.S. Soccer about this digital program that we're creating through Rise and Shine, because this is one of my initiatives is to create grit. And how do you do this digitally? You can do it physically. Kids come up to the camps. I can walk them through stuff. I can tell them stories. We can do this on Zoom. We can do all sorts of ways that we can create mentorship and mentality through storytelling. But it's also like, how would you do what somebody else has done to create grit artificially? So it's like one of the things that we're going to do from the interaction is like, if you take the Jay DeMerit lesson or you watch, or one of the challenges would be to like, you got to say to your time lapse, I'm sleeping on the floor because I want to make my varsity team. And then you gotta set your bed on your floor and you gotta sleep on your floor because sleeping on your floor is a sacrifice, is something you're willing to get out of your comfort zone to do when your bed is right here. And you gotta do it next to your bed, right next to it. And if I see in the time lapse that you're getting out of your bed and going back in your bed, you're not creating grit. You're not creating adversity. And this is not even adversity. This is sleeping on a freaking floor. But it's still somewhere where you have to start, because the kids now, they don't even know what that's like. They have no idea what it's like to sleep on the floor. And that is truly, in a metaphorical way, the biggest problem about why there is no gritty guys, because it's our systems. And again, I'm not just talking about U.S. soccer. I'm talking about youth programs in general, from music to sports to arts to you name it. We're creating single lane individuals that are just thinking that they're the best in the world, and all they know is and their knowledge is based on what they read on Google, not in what they've done or situations they've put themselves in or experiences that allowed them to create a mindset that they can go and do whatever the hell they want. Because that's what Rise and Shine is. That's what I did at 18. I was like, I can do this. I've worked 9 jobs. I know who I am. I know what support is. I got family that support me. I can take chances. I got a job. That I can have if I fail. Those are things that I've learned to go and have the confidence to create these experiences that now give you the life that you want.
Wow. Holy shit.
Seriously. Seriously. Get out of your comfort zone is like some of the best advice there for sure. Because if you're not doing that, you're not advancing. Yes, correct.
You know what I mean? It's not just like, oh, I'm out of my comfort zone. This is what it's supposed to feel like. Like I am constantly, even now, seeking uncomfortableness, because I know what it's like to be comfortable. We all do.
Yeah.
But again, if we want to get what we want, if we're going to do things that people think are crazy, then you got to put yourself in the arena to do them. And you got to have the confidence to do so, because you can't knock it out of the park when the lights are on if you haven't prepared yourself just into the arena. Again, that's all part of the thing too. You know what I mean? Like, how are guys going to know about big games if they've never played in them? Well, one, you can start to talk to older players about what big games are like. You can start to go to the stadiums and see what it's like in real time. And then you can walk in there because you know what it's like in real time. You've heard from other people what it's like to walk out in there. And then you bring your own mindset into that experience. But then within that becomes the learning. Yeah, you might fall flat in your face, but at least you're going to learn from that. And then you know what I mean? All that starts with the whole holistic wheel of how do you create grit.
So 2014, you ended up having to hang up the boots for a couple of reasons. I think you said injury obviously played a big part of it, but tell me about what you have going on right now with the stereos. And I don't want to butcher the name, but is it Portmanteau?
Portmanteau, but Rocket Logs is the product that we're doing right now. So that's easy to say. Rocket Logs.
Rocket Logs. Okay. So tell me what you got going on now with Rise and Shine with speaking, because I mean I think all of us are definitely going to want to hear more about this now. And tell me about the Rocket Logs.
Yeah, I hope my computer the signal might work or it might not. Am I still good?
Yeah, sounds good.
Look and sound good. Yeah.
Okay. Well, my background is in design, so I have a degree in product design. So as I finished playing sports, I was kind of like, okay, I didn't want to go get creative again, and so I started a stereo company called Portmanteau, because our first product was taking old suitcases and turning them into like boom boxes. And so it was like this vintage like stereos that we would make out of these cool suitcases and trunks, and then that kind of graduated to 2 other products, and then we graduated into the third product. So we have beer pong stereos, we got coffee table stereos, and then I make these things called Rocket Logs, which are made out of like recycled trees, log rounds up here in BC, because I live, as you guys can see, in the mountains. I live in the forest now, so I started to kind of use my design stuff. And stereo companies are cool because I like to party and I like to design stuff. So for me, a stereo company was something that would seem like a natural fit.
Yeah.
I guess for me, it was always like this whole idea of I never really got to use the creative side of the practice of product design. I've always been intrigued by product design. It created my mindset, design mindset. I don't know if any of the viewers or listeners have ever kind of read about design mindset, but I think it was crucial to my development as to kind of what allowed me to have the mindset to create my story. I think that part of it was just being creative. And my college degree in design kind of allowed me to express that creativity in a lot of different ways, or see maybe channels or roads that I wouldn't have seen if I didn't have a creative curriculum background. And so now I just, again, because of that background, and because with Rise and Shine, I started the charity, again, a music festival. Now we're at almost like 2,000 people that we do a music festival as a fundraiser that raises money through electronic music in the fields of British Columbia to send half of the program to captain's camps for free. So I use, we get community programs, we get underserved kids that come up, and they get to come to this camp out leadership camp where we talk to entrepreneurs and Olympians and World Cup stories around bonfires. And it's more of a leadership program. And kind of like I said, as far as grit is concerned, I feel like Rise and Shine is a life program. This is something that for me as the head of it starts to realize that, again, I don't hold sports any higher than I do design. You know what I mean? So for me, it was always about creating a better program for the youth to actually understand that being a designer is as cool as being a soccer player, because 99% of you guys in high performance programs aren't going to be the soccer player that you dream you will. And again, that's not to be the antithesis of the dream. I am the antithesis of the dream. I am someone that knows what it's like to not get picked, and to know, I know what that's like. But at the end of the day, I was able to make it happen on the other side. But I also understand that I'm also the anomaly of the other way around, where I was the one that wasn't supposed to make it but actually did. What about the kids that weren't supposed to make it and didn't? There's 99% of those around. And so what are they doing? Right now, they're suffering from mental health problems, in all honesty. That's what they're doing. At 18, 19 years old, they don't know who they are. They didn't get the scholarship. The badge is gone. And now they're like, who am I? What am I doing? And so that's really where the Rise and Shine Youth Program has come into play. We create a holistic version with mentors of all walks of life. We have professionals in all fields, from, chefs, and we always cook meals with the kids, or we have designers come up and we do a design exercise with a bunch of soccer players, or the DJ camp, the coaches are DJs that play at Coachella or Red Rocks, or, famous DJs and musicians. And then they teach the skill set. And then I moved to the mentorship program because I'm a soccer player and I want to talk to DJ kids about what it's like to play in front of 60,000 people, because that's interesting to see that. And there's no reason why we can't crossbreed that mindset. And so that's kind of what I do with the program now. And then with the app is what we're going to do is really create a bridge so we can connect those things. Those digital lessons from celebrities can turn into online lessons that any kid from anywhere can learn. And they can learn my story in a 6-part lesson about grit, and they can sleep on their floors in London and be like, yo, Jay, what's up? I just did this because tomorrow I got not tomorrow, next week I got an interview for a job offer, and I'm going to sleep on this because I know how important this is, and I'm going to put me in the mindset to do so. Like, these are ways that through an app we can create this communication and really start to bring a better curriculum as to how you create these kids in their paths. And I don't think that our programs are on a singular level, sports, music, arts, are doing that in a holistic way.
That's awesome. I mean, do you guys do this for adults? I mean, can I come up here and take this course?
It's coming. Well, that's also what the music festival is. That's a bunch of us. We get 2,000 of our friends that are all professionals in a bunch of different fields, and we want to have a good time just like anybody else. I always encourage anyone I know, from adults to kids, if you don't have a music festival in your life isn't as good as it could be.
What's that one artist that we need to be listening to get our grit on right now?
Jay DeMerit.
Good question. I listen to a lot of electronic music. I got my buddies, the Funk Hunters. They got a song called Raise Your Fist that I like to listen to.
Nice.
Done.
Awesome. Well, that concludes the interview portion of the podcast, Jay. I do want to finish up with what we're going to call the Jay DeMerit quiz, and I have 3 questions for you based on some of your moments of your career, and I want to see if you can get them all right. So question number 1 is, in the playoff final versus Leeds, you guys won 3-0. Besides yourself, who are the 2 other goal scorers, and what minute were they in?
Oh, you're killing me on the minute. Well, it was James Chambers looping ball off the post as goal number 2. And that would have been probably, I'm going to say, 57th minute.
That's spot on, but it was an own goal. An own goal, but
oh no, it wasn't. I'm giving it to my boy.
But yeah, the 57th minute was correct. And who was the 3rd goal and what minute?
Darius Henderson penalty kick. 82nd.
84th.
Oh, that's still amazing. Amazing.
I'll give that one to you. Okay, so when you guys played England in 2010 World Cup, can you name the starting 11 for England?
No chance. I can try. Emil Heskey, Wayne Rooney, Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard. Who was on the wing? Aaron Lennon, maybe? No.
Yep.
Robert Green in goal. Because famously enough, my agent had 2 players in the World Cup, and they were me and Robert Green. That's an interesting story.
That's great.
Let's see who the center halves were. John Terry and Rio Ferdinand.
No.
Rio? No.
I'll give you a hint. He had bad knees.
Bad knees. Was he old at the time?
Not old. Played for Tottenham.
Ledley King?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Him. Who would have been? Ashley Cole?
Yes.
Right back would have been. I don't know.
This one's a tough one.
He's doing
Milner,
well.
maybe?
He wasn't right back, but he was
Did Milner play?
played. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was here.
He's gotten all but one actually at this moment, right?
All but one.
The right back. This isn't an easy one, though.
Who would have that been? Give me his club. I'll see if I know.
Well, he played for several. At the time, I think he might have been playing for Liverpool.
Liverpool, yeah. Did he play for Stoke later?
Played for Stoke. He played for Portsmouth. He played for Chelsea.
Oh, Glenn Johnson.
Yep.
I wouldn't have guessed that at all.
No.
Okay, last question. According to transfermarket.com, which is an English gaming website, what was your highest transfer value, and in what year did that occur?
Good question. I'm gonna say, I don't know, maybe 3 million, and it would have been probably my premiership season, so that would have been like 2006, 2007-ish, maybe even 2008.
Close on all fronts. This says, and again, I'm quoting this website, 2.2 million, but this says 2010.
That post World Cup high.
Wow.
Yeah.
You killed it, though. Started every game in the World Cup.
Yeah. So
And you still can't make over 3 mil. That's shit.
well,
See, that's the thing. Like, I got to keep working. Everyone else in my position that played in a World Cup is like in their huge houses hanging out. I'm over here with my grit in my pocket, and that's about it.
Grit is a life program.
What was Rob Green's value at post 2010?
Negative.
If it's higher than 2.2.
He'll never live that one
That was
down.
a good agent, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, that concludes the American Outlaws podcast with Jay DeMerit. I want to thank Jay on behalf of the American Outlaws for joining us today. Awesome stuff. Congrats on an amazing career, and congrats on what you have going on now, which sounds equally inspiring. I think the best part of this podcast was that Corey Donahue wasn't on it, but
That's for sure.
the second best part was having Jay and hearing these stories, and we look forward to having you again soon if you're up for it.
Oh, 100%. You know, again, I've always had a great relationship with AO, and I understand that you guys are the lifeblood of what we do. And it's always appreciative for players as well to engage with fans, to understand that you guys are equally important to this whole solution. And anytime I can come and share some stories and some sweat and tears, that's what it's all about. So, anytime, again, this is the thing that this could go for another 3 hours. That's the best
I know.
It really could.
I have more questions, but it's all right.
Yeah. Anytime, guys. Always a pleasure, and we'll see you soon.
Cool. Well, we look forward to having you back, Jay. Thanks again for listening. Check out our other podcasts previously with Jimmy Conrad and Benny Faulheiber, and look for the next one coming up soon. Thanks, guys.